Hi guys! So I'd started this dream project on my other channel. I don't remember exactly when. I know it was sometime in 2022 because I know it was before this year basically. I remember filming videos around the second half or the very end of 2022. And I did a few, and every time I posted, I really, really wanted to share just the experiences and my perception, but something felt wrong on that channel with sharing. It didn't sit completely right with me, and I kind of abandoned it because I was really being guided to start fresh, like just create something new. And in being guided to create something new, I just kind of stopped. And then many, many, many months later, I finally birthed Nath's Garden. And this channel is just going to be my place that I can share all of these different musings I have on spirituality and how things come through. So today I'm sharing a dream with you. This beautiful crystal before you is an apophyllite with stilbite. And this face that you're looking at right now on it has so much coding on it. And it really had come to me, I honestly don't remember if it was like a meditative vision or if it was a dream. They kind of seem the same. But I saw that face of the crystal, and it's like it was beckoning me and telling me and asking me to work with it because it had a message for me within its coding. So I took it to bed with me one night, and basically this is the dream I had that night. So I'm going to do my best to try to paint out the landscape of this dream to help you better understand what I'm trying to explain. And this was actually quite a quick snapshot that I think I can do it. So basically, I was in a lot of vague darkness. And I was sitting with what was understood to be my twin flame or my other half. And usually when that happens in a dream, I do recognize it as my husband, Dunks, or Duncan, but he will come in many different forms in different dreams. So he'll look different. Like he won't be in the same physical body as he is in this life, but I will recognize his soul as being Duncan in different dreams. But in this dream, I just recognized him as, or not even him, it wasn't even sexed. It was just this understanding of my other half, my twin flame. And it was showing up as light, like a light being, but very vague and formless, very blob-like, honestly, but glowing. And I can only assume or presume that I was in the same form. But I was looking through my lens, right? So I couldn't see myself. But I was sat next to this other half of myself. And we were having a conversation, and basically we were talking about the fact, and it was quite mundane and disinteresting, the way we were talking about this idea that we would always find each other. And we knew this, and we were kind of just saying it like, meh, we know we'll always find each other. And it was just very like, whatever. But then in the background, we were just in this vague formlessness, and it was dark. It was a very, just like we were sitting in dark nothingness. But in the background, there was one, or in the distance, I should say, there was one street. And that street was the only thing within our vision, right, that had any kind of definition at all. Now, from where we were sat, it was still quite blurry and formless. Well, not formless, because it was the only thing that had form. Sorry. It wasn't fully defined, right? We couldn't make out the definition within the street, but you could see the form of the street, and you could see the form of buildings within the street, and there was light coming from the street. And everything else around us was just darkness and nothingness. And as we were talking about the fact that we knew we would always find each other, I don't remember if it was me or my other half, but one of us made the comment that, but when we find each other there, pointing to the street, that's when it will mean something. We know that if we find each other there, when we find each other there, then it has meaning. And that was the whole dream. But I had so much inner standing come through from that dream as I journaled about it, because I felt like I could remember and understand the feelings that were being experienced within this light being in that moment. And the understanding or inner standing that was coming through in journaling afterwards. And this actually took, so the journaling I did in the morning, but it took a few days for this to really come together and solidify and be fully understood. Was this idea that we were actually in a higher plane, right? And we were understanding that, let me precede this by saying I understood immediately that street was symbolic of earth. And that's why it was the only thing within our field of vision that had definition, because we're on a very dense plane here where things materialize. And otherwise we were in a higher plane, but everything was much more etheric and formless, right? And even though it was beautiful that we were together, there was kind of no meaning to it because, of course, we were together, because in these higher planes, we're just a part of, we're closer to unity consciousness, basically, right? Like we were unified kind of with everything, that our unification with each other wasn't even really valuable. And what I really felt like could feel the importance of was basically this idea that coming from a higher plane, we were pointing to a lower plane. And this was kind of this desire to go through descension, or not even that, because we knew we were going to do it. And with cyclicality within the greater cosmos, right? Many of us believe that we're on an ascension timeline right now. But this was remembering back to a time where we were in the descension timeline, right? And even once we're in an ascension timeline now, once we ascend, it's just a fact that we're going to loop back around as we work our way through the spheres, and we'll go through another descension timeline, another ascension timeline, descension timeline, ascension timeline, and each time we'll graduate to higher spheres, right? And this was just this understanding of actually the beauty and the importance of the descension part. Like, why would something that is a part of this beautiful greater whole ever want to descend? And it was this idea that we were so formless that we couldn't even recognize why being together was important, because of course we're together. Like, we're gonna find each other because we're connected. It doesn't really mean anything. But once we were able to descend into the street of earth, and I love that it came through in my dream as a street, because what is a street? A street is something that we lay down or pave the way, right? It's a defined path that we can follow to get to where we want to go, right? That's what a street is. So it's like seeing Earth as this concept of a street. Like, this is the path we must follow. We must materialize into dense matter. Because then when we have really hard lessons and feelings and emotions, and when we lose ourselves in that density, then when we find each other, that's beautiful. That has meaning. And only by being born into dense matter could our lives be understood in a meaningful way, where we could really learn how important we are, because we fractalize and then individualize, right? This is so hard to explain. I know I'm probably losing so many of you guys. It's like this idea that even within this dream, my twin flame, or my other half, was formless and didn't even have an identity. But in other dreams, whenever I felt like it was my twin flame or my other half, I literally was able to recognize this other half as Duncan. But this was on a higher plane. It was so much higher that it wasn't even individuated enough to know itself, to know thyself. So we come here into this dense plane to develop our ego. And our ego is not bad by definition, right? Our ego understanding our I, right? That this is all about just knowing the truest expression of ourselves so that we can find meaning and beauty in our life. And that's why we are really here to surrender and follow our innermost desires. And saying that with this understanding that when we can really stay true to ourselves, we are in alignment with this unified concept where we do no harm naturally if we're fully expressing. I do believe this, that if we're fully expressing our innermost desire, it comes from like this childlike wonder and beauty that desires to do no harm, right? That I don't think feeding into our egos when it's pure would cause any harm. So it's this idea that being here and living this earth life is the most important part, even though we're in the densest part of our life, or of all of the life cycles. What is the way to say this? When you think of ascension and descension, and we're at this deepest part, and now we're like ascending back out, and like sometimes we feel like we're clawing our way up. And it's like, no, just enjoy the beauty of where we are and try really hard to surrender as much as you can and fully express who you are. Let yourself do the things that you desire to do and create the things that you want to create, because this is where you find yourself and this is where you define yourself, so that you're not just this blob. You're not just sitting here on this higher plane musing on the fact that, yeah, right, we're light beings. Yeah, we're going to find each other, but who cares? We always do. It was so void of the emotions and the depth of character we get to experience on this 3D plane. So as hard as this 3D plane is to live on, this is where we find ourselves. And that's the beauty and the importance of this life, right? It's like if my other half was not Duncan yet, because it hadn't fractalized enough yet and hadn't individuated itself enough, it also meant that I wasn't Diana, right? I was just light. And yeah, light is beautiful, but you need a little bit of darkness. You know, that street was very black, but there was light shining within it. I really hope this is making sense, because for me it was like so profound. And it really felt like this beautiful gift from my guides or my higher self, bringing this message through to me at this time under the influence of the Lion's Gate. It was really beautiful, just understanding that, like, this concept of the fall and descension, we only think of it as negative because we have this desire to, within our plane, we have negative polarity, right? Negative and positive. So when we see something as negative, our understanding is that it's bad. But polarity is not about bad or good. It's just the balancing scales. So here in this descension plane, the descension plane is actually serving a really high purpose and has a really positive message behind it. We need to fractalize and individuate, and this is where we get our understanding of who we are. This is where we get the importance of all of life's lessons. And actually, now we're going through this ascension plane. We're just going to go back. Yes, it's beautiful to become a part of this, being closer to God, this idea of being closer to unity consciousness, or this idea of everybody being connected. Like, we are connected now, but we don't really perceive it so much. We're on this ascension timeline where we're going to go back to that, and that is something beautiful to strive for. But actually, the ascension, that process is also going into losing yourself again, really. And that's not to fear, it's cyclicality. And each experience gives us a new lens to embrace the part that we're in. But really what I wanted to highlight was just how important it is for us to be here right now and be the fullest expression of who we are. Let yourself be an individual. Let yourself do what it is you want to do. Don't look to other people to define yourself. Don't look to other people to decide what's okay and what's not okay to do. Follow your heart's calling. All right, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully I'll be back soon. Bye.